Hi, everybody. This is Instigating Women and Friends, and I'm here today with Kate and Jen. And Jen, I'm so excited to hear what you have to say because most of my clients are women, not exclusively, but most. And most are in healthcare, and most have really been through the ringer the last 3 years with the pandemic. And now I think all health systems are struggling financially to be viable and to just pull their people back in to engage them in different ways. A lot of burnout and a lot of mental resilience issues. And yet they're afraid to speak up. They're afraid to ask what they need. So Kate tells me you've got some experience in integrating mind and body. So Kate, I'll turn it over to you and then we'll just have a conversation and see where it goes.
Sounds good. So I'm happy to introduce Jen Dill to join us on Integrating Women and Friends. I first came to know Jen, because I want to munge Jennifer and Dill just to.
You're not the only one. I get Jill all the time.
It's just a delightful
More convenient. Yes.
Yeah. It's better for her. So I first met Jen as an introduction from another coach who was like, hey, this person's cool and in your area, you should meet. So the reason that I wanted to have Jen on the podcast mostly was because she is an integral coach and deals with that mind-body connection. And Gwen and I are both like, feelings, we don't have those. We don't know where they show up until it's too late. And then, myself in particular, this last year with my back injury, I think a lot of that was just a lot of change in my life and trying to go forward and being stuck. But I thought we'd have a conversation about somatics, maybe talk about what somatics is, what that even means, and then just kind of have a perspective on how to feel more. So Jen, what did I butcher? What did I get wrong?
No, that was great. I mean, other than my name, but that was good. And I mean, along with being an integral coach, I'm also a personal trainer. So I have a physical back, like that's where I started, and then coaching kind of evolved from that. But other than that, yeah, you got it.
So tell us about having a loud body.
Yes, I have a very loud body, and I've had to, I didn't always recognize that. It has come, I've had like yourself, back injuries, and most of them start not because of an acute, like something like I fell, right? It's built up over time, and your body stores stress in kind of the weakest points, and it goes straight there. And for those of us who are very driven, very up here in our heads, we can tune that out until you can't. Right, until it starts as a whisper, and then it just gets louder and louder until you have to address that. And so it wasn't until it got so loud I had to stop everything that I really realized, like, okay, we need to start paying attention. And you don't have to wait until catastrophe to pay attention. And that's what I work on with my clients, right? Being able to dial into those cues and signals that your body gives you, and kind of learning where your body holds stress, learning kind of what your physical reactions are. Because sometimes, I mean, honestly, for a lot of people, it's not safe being in their body. So in their head is where they go because your body doesn't feel safe. But being able to trust your body and slowly, because you do live there, being able to dial in and starting to learn the language of some of the signals that your body sends you that you might not be getting from your head, because they're two very different systems.
Yeah, I feel like my body might speak Urdu and my mind definitely speaks English. And we don't talk a lot.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. No. And a lot of people are like that. I mean, we are so rewarded for everything, socially speaking. You're rewarded for everything that comes up from your head, right? Like that's where our society lives right now. And all like the body stuff is, I think, still pretty woo-woo, right? And people write off as woo-woo. Like I just had this was like an easy example. So my son is looking for colleges right now, and we went to different schools. He's going to be an engineer, so he's very like head brained, right? Like that's where he's focused, and had all these checklists. On paper, this one school was fantastic. We went there and it was meh. This other school went in, and he just was like, he talked to me more. He looked like he was having a better time. Like he was just lighter. His energy was different. And that was nowhere on the checklist, right? In terms of what to look for in a school. And that was all like physical sense. And he had such a hard time reconciling those things, right? Like I should go here. This is what's better on paper. This has all checks all my boxes that I put down, that my head told me to put down, but my body reacted this way. These are not his words, by the way. He's 18. So, but for me, you know, like, and he was just really confused by that whole process of like, I like this better, but I can't say why. I just feel better here. And being able to get in touch with those cues, and, you know, kind of just trusting that you don't always have to have like the concrete answers, like it just feels better is an answer.
Yeah, that's great. I'm sitting here thinking about, you know, I've got a 23-year-old son, and if he ever used that language, I was like, I need him to use it. Mine's not there. But I'm also thinking about, you know, all these people at work who say, but the culture training that we just had says we're supposed to act like this, and yet people aren't acting like that here. And what's wrong with me? So when they can't reconcile these disconnects between body and mind, what do you do to help them?
Well, I mean, I think that's a really big topic, right? Because there's body and mind, and then there's culture. And a lot of times, for a lot of people, our culture doesn't really fit our bodies, right? And I'm assuming in the healthcare system, I think, and this is me knowing very surface value, right? So I think people think that seeing everything that everybody went through in the pandemic, right? How horrific that was and how taxing it was on that system. But they're people. It was a system, but they're people. And people assume because these people have chosen this job that they can handle that. But they're still people, and they're still dealing with people who are suffering. And that suffering is all encompassing. And so how do you take care of yourself when you have nothing but suffering around you, and a system that is telling you, yeah, just keep going. You're fine.
Keep going.
Like, no choice. Keep going. Right? And I don't have the answers to that other than to go, I am like, this is crazy. This is crazy. And what I'm feeling is okay. And what I'm feeling is right. Like that's, I think, the very bare minimum people can start with, like, my feelings are valid. This is nuts. Mm-hmm. And changing that system, I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. But I think it starts with recognizing that this is not normal. This is not okay to do to people. All of the people involved. This is not okay.
So recognize it, and then start to figure out how to help yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where, you know, listening. So for me, like listening to my body, like, again, the woo woo, right? But like for me personally, and this is me, but like I get, when I'm nervous, I like my stomach tenses, but usually I just on one side, and I pull in, and I won't even notice I'm doing it until I'm doing it. I'm like, oh, and then I'll go, like, what am I protecting against? Like, what am I uncomfortable with? And you can watch people's body language. I mean, that isn't, you know, so woo woo. That's, you know, somewhat of a science, right? But it's just being able to recognize in your own body, when are you in a protective stance? And when are you holding on, you know, for dear life? And can you let some of that go? Because that's just, your body doesn't know the difference. Like, am I really in danger right now? Am I really that stressed? Or is this just momentum? Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I asked someone at one point in time, I was like, okay, not in touch with my body. How do you start? And they kind of went back to the very beginning. They were like, well, pay attention to when you're hungry. I'm like, oh, I know when I'm hungry. Pay attention to when you have to go to the bathroom. I don't pee my pants, so I know when I have to go to the bathroom.
And not
Thanks.
that new.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
Not
right.
that new.
Where is the, yes.
I'm not like starving and sitting in my own waste. I am an adult. I can feed myself. So, but when you were telling me about your son, like I did get goosebumps. And I think for me, being so much of a baby who can feed herself and know when to go to the bathroom in this space, but in the space of like, why did I get goosebumps? And starting to like ask that question of, oh, where did I feel that?
Yeah.
And like then examine like what was I feeling? Because I noticed a sensation, but then I have to go grab my wheel of emotions. Because I bought one.
You have a handy dandy wheel of
I do. I have a handy dandy wheel of emotions because I didn't know I was angry.
right. Yes.
But like this helps me be like, okay, what sort of emotion did I get? Why did I get goosebumps? Like
Yeah.
what for, why?
Yeah. And it really is as simple as that, as catching when that happens and being curious about it. Like what's going on when I'm getting goosebumps, and you can discern, is this good? Is this bad? Is this like the chills? Am I just cold? Or, was there a temperature change? Or, did it kind of, my blood run cold? Or was it like, oh, like when you hear a good song, right?
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing. And being able to name those emotions. I'm still really shitty at that. I mean, we are, as a society, it is super helpful, and it's like you're looking through, in nonviolent communication, they have, all of that. And it's just like dazzled. Like, when was I last dazzled? Shit, it has been way too long since I've been dazzled. Have I not ever been dazzled? Right. So like just being able to have some words for that. And then you can, like, your brain goes, oh, I might be dazzled right now. Not be dazzled, but it makes creating just a little bit of awareness and not making it like a big, huge thing, right? Like you caught the chills, and you'll be able to build on that.
Yeah. Well, that's why I like the wheel, because dazzled would be like out here where it's a little bit more subtle, like judgmental, loathing, repugnant, revolted. And then that dials into a bigger emotion. So then, it goes into a little bit less subtle, and then way not subtle. So like all of those that I just described go into disgust. And I'm sure like dazzled goes into, happy or surprised.
Yeah.
But like for some people it's easier to name the big emotion, and for other people it's easier to name the more subtle.
Yes, that's a great point. Yes. And it's the same thing with your body too, right? It's being able to honestly, we don't pay attention to this stuff until we have to manage it before it escalates and totally, because our body will shut you down and it's doing that out of self-protection, but it doesn't feel like it at all. It feels
and yet little kids can tell you how they feel like that in every moment.
Absolutely.
Well, I wonder if we can't, it would, I'm in a positive theory. It would seem that if we can't pay attention to the big negative emotion, then we're probably also missing the big and small positive emotions. Like maybe we haven't felt dazzled because we really haven't felt the anger that we needed to feel. I don't know.
Or maybe we have been told so many times it's wrong and stupid to even have those thoughts, to wonder. All we're supposed to do is head down, march forward, do as told, suck it up.
But at the same time, we're also told to be happy.
Well, that's just to make everyone else comfortable.
Yeah.
Point taken.
Yeah. And that's where, there's a lot of disassociating going on, where people, because bodies can be so overwhelming, or thoughts, I mean, it can be both, that you check out because you're not allowed to have those feelings. The people around you can't control those feelings. So they don't know what to do with that. So you're not allowed to have that if they can't have that. There's nowhere to put it for anybody. And so how do you navigate that? is, and I think it is, it's just being able to start with yourself and go, okay, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I sense is happening. And then just, I mean, it's not going to be there forever. It gets to float away and you get to move on. And you'll get all kinds of new data. But and it can be a little like, well, what's this mean? And then sometimes nothing at all. Right.
But I think that, like, your point that it'll float away, if you don't feel it, I don't think it floats. I think a little bit gets stuck in you.
Yeah.
In the body tells a story. Body tells, is that what it's called?
The story.
There's a book, The Body Keeps the Score.
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
I love that book.
That book changed my life.
I love that book. Yes, agree.
Yeah.
And I'm still getting through it because there's a part of me intellectually that's like, no.
It's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is tough.
Yeah.
And yet so valuable. And Jen, similarly, you mentioned nonviolent communications, and I appreciate that because that's another book that helped. And I believe even on their website, they've got lists of feelings and list of needs. Because the big question is, when stuff's going on, can you list your feeling and can you list your need? And I've just found those two lists. If I keep them on my notes on my phone pinned, then it's much easier to just pause and go through it and go, maybe what am I feeling and maybe what am I needing?
Yeah.
To communicate differently than what I've been able to in the past.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a wonder to me that we're able to communicate at all as a species, because the majority of us have no idea how we're feeling and are saying one thing but meaning another, and then somebody else is interpreting that through their lens, which is totally different, and they're experiencing something entirely. I just don't know how things happen, right? but absolutely it is. If you're able to get in touch, and you're absolutely right, it's like these feelings, what is the need that needs to be met? And if we could ask ourselves that question, and that's where in the healthcare system, none of the people there are allowed to have any needs.
Yeah.
They're just not.
They're just supposed to be ready to go to battle and provide great care every day. And
right. Totally selfless. Supposed to be selfless. And that is ridiculous.
And I do think too, you say, how do we communicate? If we don't even know how we're feeling, or if we walk into work and people are like, how you doing? And you're supposed to say, fine, fine, fine. You don't ever figure out how to communicate. And then it is so easy to just sock all this stuff away as woo-woo and unimportant. And then you might think somebody that you're with at work is being passive aggressive. Well, they're not intending to be. They don't even know how to express themselves. Right. Nor do you.
Right. And that's exactly where, they just don't have the skill sets, and we're not taught this, and which is just crazy. And I mean, growing up how I grew up was a little tumultuous childhood, but you get to an adult and you're like, how did this happen? How am I here? Right. And how did all these people, how did we keep going as a species? It just, but that's the work. I think it's hard to now to unsee it. You can't unsee how crazy it is.
Agree.
So how do you get your clients to move from, okay, you've noticed something, like you've noticed that you have a body and that it occasionally tells you things, but it speaks Urdu. So what's the next step?
So the thing is that a lot of times with my clients, it's such a great little moment. You go in and, there's this like external crisis that's happening, and, okay, well, what's going on? How do you feel about that? What sensations? Like, literally talk about what kind of physical sensations come up. And once they're able to, and it takes a lot of practice to get to that, because it's like, I'm worried, like that's not a sensation, right? Because your body will give you, I'm feeling tightness in my chest, or I'm feeling dryness, like a tightness in my throat, or my mouth is dry, or things just as small as that. And once people are able to start to name that, then it kind of unlocks this, like, oh, I'm feeling this way and I feel small and it feels like I don't have control, right? I feel like I don't have a voice. I mean, it becomes so literal what their body is experiencing versus or is a representation of like how they feel in this situation. And it's like, I can't make any of this stuff up. It feels like magic a little bit. So if you're asking for what the next step is, it's just probing, because some of us just get stuck. We don't know what the words are. We can't get in touch. We don't, and then it's just being able to create a space that feels safe for them to access that information.
Interesting.
Nice. So May, which is right around the corner, is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yes.
So I like to think of this work that we do in support of mental health, physical health, everything. What other tips, tricks do you have for anybody that might really want to hear from us about mental health and resilience and how to improve their daily lives?
That's a great question. I think one of the things that has been really helpful for me and for my clients is and May's a great month to do this in, is being able to get outside. Being able to get outside in nature. Everybody I talk to in some way or another connects to nature somehow. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to be a hiker or a runner or anything, but just, go outside and smell some flowers, or go outside and put your feet in the grass. Being able to connect to the outside world that is outside of your head is a really great way to just give yourself like a little mini vacation from what you're experiencing. Connecting yourself to something bigger is often just in a daily practice, and being intentional about that, I've found very helpful. And it's something everybody can do, right? It's not exclusive. This work, right? We're all coaches. It's not cheap, and it's not fair, right? But you can still get yourself and to take care of yourself. And it's just a matter of going, I'm going to give myself 5 minutes of my time.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great idea.
Podcast is free, and you can treat yourself to that, which is full of laughter, which is great for mental health.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But giving yourself some of your time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if people just check marked every day that they at least went outside for 5 minutes.
Yes.
Or saw that as their gold star that they give themselves every day. They get outside for just a few minutes. Simple things.
Very simple. Very, very simple. And we all love a nice attainable win.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to bed at night thinking about, okay, what did I do for myself today? And having that be like, okay, I went out in my front yard, or I took a walk, or I stepped outside the building and, saw a tree, right? Like something, anything. I heard a bird. Like connecting it to your senses too is helpful. And it doesn't need to be that complicated. Yeah. I want it, the homework that I give is as simple as possible, which makes it easy to write off. And I, put that out right at the gate. This is easy to write off, but it makes a difference accumulatively.
Yeah. Deep breaths.
I know.
There's so much good stuff going on in the world and so much hard stuff as well, that this all helps provide a great perspective. Doable wins.
Yes, very doable wins. I love that.
So anything else, Kate?
Nothing from me.
Anything else, Jen?
No, just thank you. Gratitude. This was lovely.
Yes. So appreciate your time. I can't wait to get this out there. And our desire is to help impact people, to do just a little bit better, just by hearing this. So we hope this is helpful.
Yeah. Thank you for doing this work.
Thank you. Talk soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.